Good evening and welcome to tonight's Board of Zoning Appeals virtual meeting. As per Executive Order 202.28 by the Governor of the State of New York, the town of Smithtown is required to continue hosting all public meetings either in person, in which case we must prohibit physical public contact, or public meetings can be held remotely via conference call or similar services. Additionally, per the executive order, the town continues to live stream, record, and transcribe each meeting. Governor Cuomo stated at the beginning of the pandemic that all levels of government must continue to function normally or as close to normal as possible. As a reminder for any resident wishing to view today's meeting, you can do so by clicking on the Agendas and Meeting button on the homepage of the town's website at www.smithtownnewyork.gov. You are all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinance, and it's our job to try to help you achieve the relief you're requesting whenever possible. It's up to you to provide this board with precise and accurate information so we can make a decision based on the facts presented tonight. This board must consider the 5 area variance considerations in order to render a decision, and they are as follows. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. Number 2, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. Number 3, whether the requested area variance is substantial. Number 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the board, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance. Procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called in the order they are advertised. After your case is announced by Mr. Donadio, the moderator will connect you to the meeting so you can present your case to the board. After your case has been presented to the board, if any board member has any questions, they will be asked. Next, any interested party who would like to speak on this case will be given one opportunity to do so. Then the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to any questions or concerns, after which the case will be closed. Once the public hearing is closed, no further information will be accepted concerning the case. You can contact the planning board after 12 p.m. tomorrow for the status of your case. Blaze?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first case on the agenda, case number 18469, Paul and Rosanna Dill, 34 Maryvale Drive, Smithtown. The location of the property is the east side of Maryvale Drive, 535 feet south of Sunset Lane. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum north side yard from 16 feet to 5 feet for a proposed 680 square foot detached garage. Reduce the minimum south side yard from 16 feet to 13 feet. Reduce total side yards from 34 feet to 18 feet for a proposed 1,205 square foot first floor addition. Increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the front yard from 25% to 30%. Increase the maximum paved surface in the side yard from 25% to 80% for a proposed driveway.
Good evening. Could I have the applicant, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. We have submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to the planning department before 1 o'clock today. Looking at the plot plan, you can see that the proposed garage, although we propose to be 5 feet from the property line, it's on the north side, and The nearest structure for the neighbor is a swimming pool, which is about 54 feet from our common property line. We need to reduce the minimum side yard on the south from 16 to 13 feet as we are building an extension onto the house. Reduce total side yards from 34 to 18 for the proposed 1,205 square foot addition, and increase the maximum permitted paving in the front yard from 25 to 30, as we need to provide a driveway to the newly proposed garage, which my client will use as a hobby shop. The variance to increase the maximum permitted paving on the side yard from 25 to 80, again, is because we need to use a driveway access to get to the back garage. We don't think that the proposed expansion will have any negative impacts on the neighborhood. As you can see, there's a large space between both properties and the structure next door on the garage side, the north, about 54 feet. The request is not substantial given the size of the property, and even though there are 2 requested, actually 3 constructions, we still meet the FAR requirements. Can it be achieved by some alternative method? This appears to be the only way we can do the expansion on the dwelling. And as I said, the garage is basically for Mr. Dill's hobbies. He's a woodworker. The variance would not cause an adverse effect on the environment. There is houses. It's a housing development probably built in the late 60s or early 60s, and they're all on at least a half acre of property. And of course, we would need health department approval to get a permit to build. Was the difficulty self-created? We haven't built anything yet, and we're asking the board for its favorable consideration. You can see on the screen the proposed addition to the house. If the board has any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
I have a question. The width of the driveway, is that 20 feet?
Yes.
Can that be?
No, I'm sorry. It's a little deceiving. You're right, Mr. Chairman, because the arrows, let me just get my glasses. The arrows on the side of the plot plan go from the garage wall all the way to the property line. So I think the driveway is probably about, looks to me like 18 feet. It's not 20 feet, 0.80, which if you look at the plot plan, it shows it arrow to the wall and arrow to the property line.
All right. I was just asking, could it be cut down any? I mean, if he's not using the garage for vehicles and for woodworking shop, I assume that maybe once in a while you'll have some kind of a truck go back there to dump off some lumber or whatnot. But
well, yes, it could. Whatever the board thinks is appropriate. I guess I don't know of any vehicle that's wider than probably 8 feet. So maybe the driveway could be reduced down to 12 foot wide. Would that make sense?
yeah. It would. All right. Thank you, Mr. Tramarko. Does anyone else on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
No? Planning?
Mr. Chairman, I would just make one comment regarding the proposed detached garage. They are requesting to reduce the side yard from 16 feet to 5 feet. That's a substantial reduction of the side yard requirement. If the applicant could push the garage further back into the rear yard, he's only required to meet an 8-foot property line setback in the rear yard for any accessory structure. So if you could slide it back out of the side yard, I think that would solve his problem.
How far back does he have to move it back, please?
Matt, can we go back to the survey, please? I can't see what that number says. Could you zoom in on that a little bit, Matt?
We'd have to move it back about 35 feet, it looks like.
It looks
Because
like
the distance between the garage and the rear property line, if you look at the plot plan, is 46.90. So, and the garage is 34, we would have to go back pretty much, you know, so that it would be, as Blaze says, 8 and 8. So we would have to move it 35 feet roughly. I think that would be, you know,
well,
I think it would be better to have that property clear in the back than, you know, push the garage all the way back.
the zoning of the property is R21. So the applicant's required to maintain a 75-foot rear yard setback. So just based on my calculations, the rear lot line is about 47 feet away from the back of the garage. So that means that approximately 20, let's just say 28 feet of it is actually already in the rear yard. So if you were to take
6 feet.
about 6 feet, and he would be totally in the rear yard.
Is that something they would consider, Mr. Tramarko?
Yes, yeah, I didn't realize it was only 6 feet. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to be heard on this application?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Russell LaParry and Diane LaParry. We're the neighbor.
Okay. Could you introduce yourself again, please? Spell your last name and give your address, please, for the record.
Sure. Last name is LaParry, L-I-P as in Peter, A-R-I. And we're at 36 Maryvale Drive.
Okay.
I have a prepared statement. Do you want me to read the statement into the record or send it in? I can handle this.
It's up to you.
All right, I'll read it into the record. Just an understanding that before this meeting, we had no idea what the use of this driveway or garage was going to be. Some of the numbers that have been mentioned already don't appear to be correct in terms of the distances of the garage and the property line and what have you. But that may all change based on some of the discussion I heard here. So I'll read my statement and then we can go through it and I'll answer any questions. And I have some questions at the end as well. Is that okay?
Yes, fine.
Okay. So I'm here today because of some questions and concerns I have regarding the proposed variance. Zoning laws are created for the simple purpose of protecting the health, safety, general welfare of the people.
You're going to have to slow down just a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
The health, safety,
The health, safety, and general welfare of the people as relates to land use. Should I continue?
yes, sir, please.
These laws help protect the value and enjoyment of properties by allowing a property its most appropriate land use, given its location and surrounding uses. While I support the improvement of our neighborhood in general, I am afraid some of the proposed variance steps proposed in this plan go too far. Will create a bad precedent for other residents of the town and will certainly infringe upon my use and quiet enjoyment. After all, the town codes were created with specified setback limitations. which the applicant is looking to completely erase and rewrite. These codes were intended to keep noise, disturbances, and landscaping a certain way for all residents, not on an ad hoc basis. Allowing this plan in its entirety and without appropriate limitations, restrictions, guidelines, and promises paves the way for other similar changes throughout our town. I have a few specific points that I would like to make and can answer any questions the board may have. From the documents we have received, we have no indication regarding the use of these changes. Frankly, it was a surprise, as we would have preferred a discussion to address all of our concerns. We have been here 25 years and have no issue or concern with our neighbors. Unfortunately, these proposed changes may start us on a more difficult path we do not want to take, but we have no choice but to strongly object to the granting of these variances for the driveway and garage. In our view, the applicant is significantly reducing the grass and natural surface area along our property line and the overall area. Adding in impervious surfaces is likely to have a direct impact on our water runoff, grading, water discharge, and potential for significant damage to our property, the town's infrastructure, and the applicant's own property. I did not see any architectural engineering drawings outlining how the applicant will protect against these likely events. Further, with a paved driveway, the entire length
With
of
a what?
Excuse me?
I'm sorry, further with a,
Further, with a paved driveway, the entire length of my property, water and other oils from the cars that could be parked there are likely to spill onto my property. As a potential downhill landowner, I need assurances that any property damage, including to my landscaping, will be the sole responsibility of the applicant. In my view, they are asking to take the maximum paved surface area from 25% to 80%. That's more than 3 times the allowable limit. It's not adding a small patio here. It's adding the square footage of the entire yard. That's not what the aesthetics of Smithtown equate to for residents.
for what?
It's not equate to for residents. Should I continue?
Yes.
Okay. We have a concern regarding increased noise. This may be from car repairs, engine racing, doors opening and closing at all hours of the day and night. It may include loud cars, motorcycles, trucks, etc. All my bedroom windows run along the side of the house next to this proposed driveway. Noise will also be created at off hours when most of the neighborhood is asleep, as guests will use the driveway and wake the neighborhood when leaving. We have concerns about destroying the park-like setting we live in. Instead of looking out at natural landscaping with trees and ornaments, we'll be looking at cars and trucks and motorcycles. The proposed garage has the appearance of a commercial setting. Let's not turn Smithtown residential areas into pockets for commercial use. Down the line, this applicant or subsequent purchaser using the garage for repairs, bodywork, etc. While the town may be able to impress upon the homeowner the use, subsequent buyers may ignore or overlook the limitations that can be imposed and seek further variances down the road that granting this variance will have already opened the door. We all know how certain communities, when turning a blind eye at these requests, end up allowing homeowners to convert garage space to living space or other unintended use. We have security concerns. What is the use of this garage? Will there be buying and selling of cars, bringing strangers next to my backyard who will then disturb our privacy or use this access to scope out my house or others for later robberies? We have questions about the width of the driveway. We've already discussed that. We have questions about the size of the roof. Is the roof being raised and how high is it being raised? In closing, we strongly oppose the granting of these variances. To approve this additional driveway and garage is to turn my sunny property to shade, the dark of night into flashes of headlights, the scent of nature into exhaust fumes, and the peacefulness of our residential neighborhood into a parking lot. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Mr. Lepari, is your wife going to speak?
She
No,
wasn't planning on it.
I
She's here
wasn't.
if you have a question.
She,
Document.
We did it jointly.
okay, fine. So she's not going to speak. Okay, fine. Thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to be heard on this application?
Chairman, I don't have anybody utilizing the raise hand function. I just take a minute to let people know if you do want to speak on an application and you can't find the raise hand function, you can also use the chat function. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Since no one else would like to speak on this application, I'll bring back Mr. Tramarko.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that the suggestions made by Mr. Tanzi and Mr. Donadio make a lot of sense, along with your perception of the driveway. So we make the driveway to the rear garage 12 foot wide. It may or may not meet the requirement of no more than 25%. And the further suggestion by Mr. Donadio that the garage be set back further, which would then not require us to need a variance, because we would meet the side and rear yard requirements, I believe, of 8 feet each. So that would take away that concern, and it would be pushed back further to the rear of the property. Now, I certainly understand the concerns of Mr. and Mrs. Dill's neighbor. I can say that there is no intent to fix cars, motorcycles, or anything of the kind. Mr. Dill is a hobby person. He does a lot of woodworking by hand, and that's basically why he would like to have the garage. I don't see how the concern of water runoff would be an effect, because all the plans not only have to be approved by this board, but they have to go to the building department, engineering, who checks about water runoff, and if required, would require on-site, on my client's property, catch basins or drains. As far as loud noises, Mr. and Mrs. Dill have lived in Smithtown for many, many years at their present residence, and I don't know of any complaints. There would certainly not be any issues with repairing of cars and motorcycles. So, and we are mindful of our neighbors, and would ask the board for its favorable consideration. I think that the neighbor to the north, Mr. Lepari, if there are violations of noise ordinances, the town would not like that very much, and public safety would be down there in a minute. So hopefully we can live together, and if you have any further questions, I'm here to answer them if I can. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tramarko. Since there's no one else that'd like to be heard in this application, can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18470, Joseph Schilt, 10 Kapler Court, Lake Ronkonkoma. The location of the property, the south side of Kapler Court, 100 feet west of Smith's Road. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard from 5 feet to 2 feet, to reduce total side yards from 15 feet to 13 feet for an existing 189 square foot shed.
Can I have the applicant, please?
Yes, my name is Carmine Grasso from Cataldo Grasso Architects. I represent Joe Schilt in his request. I submitted the power of attorney and the affidavits of posting and mailing earlier today.
Okay, thank you, Carmine.
So as I said, I represent Joe Schilt in his request for variances for his existing shed. The shed is 189 square feet. It's about 7 feet 8 inches tall, and it was built in approximately 1972. The majority of Mr. Schilt's property is actually zoned NB. This is a small portion of the, I guess it would be the northwest corner of his property that is residentially zoned. The shed itself is adjacent to a repair garage and gas station that is on the east of his property. It's, like I said, it's been there for almost 50 years. It was built in 1972. The reason that the setback variances are required is because the shed is not in the required rear yard. If it was set further back, but it would have to be set much further back, it would meet the requirements, but it would not work for my client due to his condition. In regards to the area variance considerations, whether an undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood, I don't feel that it would be. The shed is located behind the repair garage, as I said, and has been there for a very long time. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method of the feasible of this, I would say no. It wouldn't be feasible for my client to move the location of the shed. My client is in a wheelchair and needs the shed to be close to the house. If you had been by the house, I'm sure you go by the houses. If you saw it, the house has a deck around it with ramps just to make everything accessible. Whether the requested area variance is substantial, we feel that the setback requests are minor. Again, if this was in the rear yard, it would need a very, very slight variance for the side yard request. Whether the proposed variance would have an adverse impact on the physical environmental conditions of the neighborhood, no. The shed has no additional sanitary flow attributed to it, and there's no additional energy use. There's no lighting or anything in the shed. And then finally, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, no. Again, my client's father actually built the shed in the early 70s when my client was very young. So we feel that because of the age of the shed and its location next to the repair garage, that it's really a very minor request, and we'd ask the board for its favorable consideration. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
All right, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to be heard on this application?
Chairman, I have no one with their hand up or in the chat.
All right, thank you, Nicole. With that said, can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18471, Chris McNamara, 17 Dorian Lane, Comac. The location of the property, the north side of Dorian Lane, 105 feet west of Parkview Drive. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard from 40 feet to 35 feet for an existing 57 square foot front portico, to reduce the minimum front yard from 40 feet to 38 feet for an existing first floor addition, adding to a lawful non-conforming structure.
Thank you. Could I have the applicant, please?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. It's Christopher McNamara.
Can you just give your address, please, Chris?
Yes, sir. It's 17 Dorian Lane, Comac, New York.
Okay, and you are here tonight because?
I'm here tonight because of to reduce the minimum. I'm applying for a variance. Mark Mancini, my architect, is here as well, any technical questions. Pretty much many of my neighbors have porticos in the neighborhood. Matter of fact, 3 doors down, someone had it applied for a variance several years ago and was approved. It really finishes the house. Also, the house faces south, so it's directly into the sun, so it does give a little shade. We have a couple of chairs that we've sat out there now. So it definitely helps. I don't believe it's any adverse impact, physical or environmentally. It doesn't hurt the character of the neighborhood, but I think it actually improves it. And Mark and I designed it with my wife, and we think it's aesthetically very pleasing, overall everything.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No question.
No,
No,
thank you.
thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to be heard on this application?
Chairman, I do not have anybody with their hand up or in the chat.
All right, thank you. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carried. Good evening.
Thank you, everyone. Guys, have a great night.
Thank you very much.
Bye now.
You too. Bye.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18472, Alan Niravath, 21 Fernwood Drive, Comac. The location of the property is the east side of Fernwood Drive, 402 feet north of Gannett Drive. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum rear yard from 60 feet to 56 feet, to increase the maximum gross floor area of the lot from 25% to 31% for a proposed 504 square foot, 2-story rear addition.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. We have submitted affidavits of posting and mailing this afternoon to the planning department. As you can see from the diagram, plot plan in front of you, the 2 variances requested are very minimal in nature. The rear yard variance from 60 to 56, 4 feet, and the FAR from 25 to 31. Again, a minimal request. Will it have any impact on adjacent properties? We think not. As you can see, there are extensions on the side and rear of the property. Is it substantial? No. Again, it's a minor extension of reduction of the rear yard and of the FAR requirement. Can the benefit be achieved by some other method? This is really the only way we can expand our dwelling. As you can see from the plot plan, it's a rectangular dwelling, and the best way to do the expansion is in the rear and on the side. Will it cause an adverse effect on the environment? We believe not. It's already developed as a single-family residence. And of course, if necessary, we will get health department approval if it's so required. Was the difficulty self-created? No, we're asking the board for its favorable consideration. We haven't done any work on the property. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone on the board who has any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application?
No, Chairman.
No. Thank you, Nicole. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next application is case number 18473, Michael and Erica Ferraro, 8 Bridle Path Road, Smithtown. The location of the property, the south side of Bridle Path Road, 1,572 feet west of River Road. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the rear yard from 75 feet to 58 feet, to reduce the front yard from 50 feet to 37 feet, which is existing, for a proposed 700 square foot first floor addition, to reduce the front yard from 50 feet to 31 feet, again existing at 37 feet, for a proposed 36 square foot portico, adding to a lawful non-conforming structure. That's it.
Mr. Chairman, I think you're muted.
Yeah, just hit the unmute button there.
Okay, we're back.
Yes.
Okay, could I have the applicant, please?
Hello, I'm Michael Ferraro. Erica Ferraro is behind me. We live at 8 Bridle Path Road in Smithtown, and we have our architect, John Gleason, here to speak on our behalf.
Okay, fine, thank you. John, could you state your name, spell your last name, and give your address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is John Gleason, architect, 336 6th Avenue, St. James, New York 11780. I'm the architect for the addition for the Ferraros on Bridle Path Road. Everybody can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. The Ferraros are going to be putting in a side yard addition on their house. It's a ranch house in Bridle Path Road. It's going to contain a bedroom, master bath, and a master bedroom suite with walk-in closets. It extends 14 feet into the rear yard. Just for the board's note that this whole property is a lawful, non-conforming structure. So the property is currently zoned R21, but doesn't obviously conform to today's standards in R21. I guess they blanketed the zoning some years back after the houses were built here. Some features of the property is that the backyard abuts the Long Island Railroad, and to the west of the property is a Smithtown recharge basin. So there's 2 neighbors that really aren't affected, obviously. And Mr. and Mrs. Peters to the east, they're about 44 feet. They're have a pretty big distance away from the proposed structure. And at the end result, this side yard will be 21 feet, 8 inches after the side yard addition is proposed. We set back the proposed addition 2 feet from the face of the front wall, just to give it a little step effect, aesthetic, so that it doesn't look like a big long wall from the Bridle Path Road view. And we're installing a proposed covered portico, which will enhance the look and give the entrance to the house pronouncement, so that everybody can see, breaks up the elevation quite a bit. And we have no trees that are going to be taken down. Drainage, such things like that will affect the existing property or neighboring properties. It's just going to be an enhancement to the neighborhood and increase values to all. Oh, there you go. Place has the elevations up. The side elevation is the one that's the east, faces east to the closest neighbor affected. That's all I have. If anybody has any questions from the board.
All right. Thank you. Is there anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
Oh, thank you.
No. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to be heard on this application?
No, Chairman.
No. Thank you. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you, members. Enjoy your night.
The next application is case number 18474, David and Margoli Lamagna, 14 Dorothy Street, Wisconsin. The location of the property, the west side of Dorothy Street, 696 feet north of Smithtown Boulevard. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard from 16 feet to 9 feet for a proposed in-ground swimming pool, to reduce the minimum front yard from 45 feet to 40 feet for pool equipment, to permit an accessory structure in the required side and front yards for the proposed swimming pool.
Can I have the applicant, please?
Hi, David Lamagna. I'm representing myself from 14 Dorothy Street, Nesconset, New York, 11767.
Okay, good evening.
Hi, thank you for your time here today. We're asking for those variances so that we could put in the in-ground swimming pool in that location in our yard. It's been a little bit of a jigsaw. We tried to avoid putting it in that location, having to avoid a variance, but requiring that 9 feet is the only, requiring that the side yard being reduced to 9 feet is the only position that works. If I jump down to the alternative, if we turn the pool in any other direction, regardless of the size of the pool, we start to conflict with the distance from the house, the distance to the overhead power lines that come off on the right-hand side of the chimney that move down diagonally down across Dorothy Street, and any in-ground catchment dry wells that are in the backyard as well. We don't, this would not impact adjacent properties on the neighborhood. The Cunninghams to our south, they would be still 50 feet from the pool, and the part of the structure that's 50 feet away is their garage. We do not feel that the request is substantial because it seems like a normal fit for that part of the yard, and our neighbors across the street have a very similar setup as well, with the pool being in that position with the house. As I mentioned, alternatives are difficult. Also, we have the pool equipment being asked for that location to avoid plumbing being near those overhead lines that are near the house. And also there is a window egress on either side of that chimney for the basement, and we don't want that interfering there as well. But the electrical panel would be a straight shot from that location. We do not feel that this would be an adverse effect on the environment. There are no trees or anything that need to be removed from that location. If anything, additional plantings of native flora will be added around it, so enhancing the environment if anything. And this difficulty was not created by us. We were caught a little bit by surprise about what needed to be done here. So we did our best to try and fit the puzzle in as best we could.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No question. Oh, thank you.
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Excuse me, is there anyone in the audience that likes to be heard on this application?
Chairman, I have no one with their hands raised or in the chat.
All right, thank you. With that said, can I have a motion to close this application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you. Have a great night.
The next application on the agenda is case number 1-18420, Joseph Pasquera, 23 Winston Drive, Smithtown. The location of the property is the east side of Winston Drive, 1,054 feet south of Jericho Turnpike. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting a special exception for temporary living quarters for parents, variances to reduce the minimum side yard from 16 feet to 8 feet, to reduce total side yards from 34 feet to 25 feet, for a 341 square foot garage conversion to habitable floor area, a 165 square foot addition attaching a detached garage to an existing 322 square foot cottage, a 34 square foot addition with 25 square foot roof over, totaling 862 square feet, adding to a lawful non-conforming structure.
Okay, can I have the applicant, please?
Hi, Joe Biscara, 23 Winston Drive, Smithtown.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Are you going to present your case or?
My architect, Ken Schulman, is with us tonight, so he can take over.
Okay, thank you. Ken?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Could you state your name, spell your last name, and give your address for the record, please?
Sure. Ken Schulman, SCHULMAN, 209 Lynn Avenue, East Northport.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. This application was originally before the board on December 15th, where we were advised to revise the application to include a request for a special exception for temporary living quarters for a parent. As part of the revised application, we have now enclosed the existing breezeway so that the temporary living quarters are connected to the existing dwelling. This application meets all of the 13 general standards for special exception, as well as the 5 special standards for this specific use. The 862 square feet of the temporary living quarters is below the maximum of 1,000 square feet that is allowed. And I have submitted a floor plan that shows how the living quarters can easily be converted back to a single family residence once the use has ceased to be needed. I believe the area variances requested are not substantial since we'll be maintaining the existing non-conforming side yard of 8 feet that has existed for almost a century since the cottage was built, and the non-conforming aggregate side yards of 25 feet that has existed since 1968 when the main dwelling was built. I feel the project will have no impact to the adjacent properties since it is well screened from with dense evergreens from the most affected property. And the only outward change will be replacing the existing garage doors with windows. So I believe when the project is built, we'll still be very much in keeping with the character of the neighborhood.
All right, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Planning?
Mr. Chairman, the Planning Department prepared a planning advisory report, and after review of the application, we recommended approval.
Fine, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to be heard on this application?
Chairman, I do not have anybody with their hands up or in the chat.
All right, thank you. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you. I appreciate you hearing the case again.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you.
The next application on the agenda is case number 18443, John Imperial. The location of the property is the north side of Park Avenue, 325 feet west of Lake Avenue. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum lot area from 10,000 square feet to 6,217 square feet, to reduce the minimum lot frontage at setback from 75 feet to 60 feet, to reduce the minimum side yard from 12 feet to 7 feet, to reduce total side yards from 28 feet to 17 feet, for a proposed 1,698 square foot, 2-story single-family dwelling with a 247 square foot attached garage.
All right, can I have the applicant, please?
Louis Castellano, 2701 Middle Country Road, Lake Road.
You have power of attorney, Louis?
Yes, I do. Blaze has it.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for adjourning us back in January. We've made a couple of revisions since then. the side yard from 7 feet, we're gonna go back to 10 feet and cut the side porch off. That sticks out past the 3 feet. If you look at it on the survey, on the east side.
Mhm.
So we'll maintain the 10-foot straight down with the porch. Also, we were gonna reduce the pitch of the roof from 12.7 to 12.5. That will relieve 103 square feet of attic space. That will not be required. We spoke to the building department about it. I don't know if the board is aware, but we do have a Board of Health approval for this lot. It has been on the 1981 tax map. We don't feel that it will have any effect on the neighborhood. We don't feel that there's any environmental issues, and there'll be no negative impact. Unfortunately, it is self-created because when Mr. Imperiali bought the property, his lawyer did not keep the property in single and separate ownership. If you go back to the exemption of February 9th, 1950, you'll see we have the front yard and rear yard. We conform to that. We are asking for a reduction of 7.5 feet on side yards. If you look at the photos I supplied to the board today, you'll see that there are many structures, there's 3 other residents on the block that have additional residents and structures on the property that are on bigger pieces of property, but they do have other structures and other dwellings on the property. We don't feel that this application is going to affect the neighborhood. We think it's going to increase the value of the neighborhood because it is new construction. I sent you a picture of the house on the corner of 140 Lake Avenue, which has a huge extension at the back. So, if you look at the overall area, there is a lot of large houses on small lots. We believe by lowering the pitch of the roof, by adjusting the side yard, we try to accommodate with some of the suggestions by the building department. We hope that all that you will take into consideration and grant us an approval.
All right. Back in January, we rode by, and the existing house that's on the lot is for sale.
No, that's our sign. That's our sign for the land on the property. As we bought the property from Coldwell Banker, you saw a sign there? That's for the vacant land when we bought it.
Oh, really? It looks like it's in front of the house.
No, it's not Mr. Imperiali's. It's not Mr. Imperiali's house. He's staying there.
Oh, okay. All right. So that was just for the land.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
I have a question. You said that you revised the roof height to lower the square footage. Was that to get the FAR down?
Yes.
So the number that we see on this application, I guess it's 1,698 square feet. That's the final number after the revision?
No, that's before the revision, Mr. Dancy.
Can you give me the number after?
It's going to come down to 103 square feet, which will bring it down to 1,595.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else have any questions on the board?
No, thank you.
Planning?
I just wanted to point out to the board, Mr. Chairman, Matt, if you could bring up the aerial of the neighborhood, please. As Mr. Castellano noted in his presentation, there are several lots within the immediate area that are not 10,000 square feet that are currently developed with single-family homes. So we are presenting this information to the board to help you make a determination as to how you would vote on the application.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to be heard on this application?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. My question is, since the square footage.
Excuse me. Excuse me. 1 second, please. Can you introduce yourself? Spell your last name and give your address, please.
Sure. Last name is D for David, Ulisse. My address is 5 Ozone Place, Nesconset.
Okay,
So
thank
I'm
you.
right around the corner from Park Avenue from this particular piece of property.
Okay.
Okay, so my question is, if the proposal originally was 1,698 square feet plus 247 square feet for an attached garage, so if it's reduced to 1,595 plus 247, I really believe that this house is much too large for the small parcel of property. I did submit something to the town. My concern is with a large home so close to the smaller bungalow house that is next to it, that God forbid there was a fire that would come out of the roof or the second floor of this dwelling, it would certainly contact and hit that smaller home. If there were children, if there was elderly or a disabled person, I know as an investment that Mr. Castellano wants to do this investment. However, the house is inappropriate for the size of the property. The whole area, it's either they're small ranches like bungalows or cape. It does not require for aesthetics, for safety, a two-story full colonial with a garage. So they're reducing the front property, the side properties, the sides, which are dangerously close, the rear of the property, to fit this huge house on such a small parcel of land. So I feel that Mr. Castellano should really put this dwelling on a different piece of property in a different location. It's totally inappropriate. It should be a house that would be sized accordingly to the property. Aesthetically, it would be outstanding. It would look terrible. It doesn't bring more money to the community when you see a giant home that is being squeezed in, and you could definitely see that it's being squeezed in. It's not appropriate. So I totally am against this particular plan for this home. Not for a home, again, according to the size, appropriate size for the property size. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to be heard on this application?
Chairman, I don't have anybody with their hands up. I will, just let folks know. I think the only person on the phone was the person who just spoke. So I'm going to say no. There's nobody in the chat and nobody with their hands up.
Okay, Mr. Castellano, would you like to come back to respond?
Yes. I thank the lady for her comments. But if she goes back to the February 9th, 1950 ordinance, the front yard and rear yard do conform to the neighborhood. The side yards do not. I grant to that. We are not on top of John Imperial's house next door to him. We have over 25 feet distance between the two of us. And if you look at the character of the neighborhood, of all the houses around us, directly across the street from us is a two-story house. To the right of us is a two-story house. And I believe on the corner is a two-story house. And then you have the Dutch Colonial at number 1 Park Avenue, all two-story homes. So I don't think that the house is out of character with the neighborhood. I do appreciate her comments, but we'd like to go forward with what we presented.
Okay, she also had a question. The 247 square foot attached garage, is that in the 1,595
No,
square feet?
that is not.
It's not.
The way they broke it down was 1,698 and 240. And then we
Mr. Chairman, if I might, just for the board's information, the lot at 6,217 square feet, it's in the R10 zoning district. They are permitted a floor area ratio of 30%, which would give you a total floor area of 1,865.1 square feet. The revised plan calls for a house of 1,595 square feet, in addition to the 247 square foot attached garage, which is approximately 35 square feet less than the maximum permitted FAR.
All right, thank you.
That's correct.
May I say one more thing, Mr. Castellano? You're saying there are two-story family homes in the area. Correct. They are Cape Cod homes. You're putting a colonial with an additional attic space. Difference.
I believe the house right across the street, at number 1, is a two-story home, two-story residence.
Okay,
You're right, it's a two-story, but it's a Cape Cod. It's not a colonial with an additional top roof, which is like almost 3 layers. There's a difference. You know that.
Thank you very much. All right, could I have a motion to close the application, please?
Moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Thank you. And that concludes our meeting for tonight.